Yeah? You see, there was an article written in a very popular and famous paper or magazine called Wakil. It was published from Amritsar. In those days, it was edited by late Maulana Abul Kalam Azad and also jointly by his brother. This article was published after Hazrat Muslim's demise. Abul Kalam Azad is a figure of the world fame. He is the one Muslim leader who continuously sided with Gandhi and Nehru and took up the career of Congress because he believed genuinely in united India and he did not believe in separation to be the solution. But he was widely respected as a great scholar in Islam. And his command of Urdu in his writing is indeed something which will never be forgotten in Urdu literature. God had given him such command. So he wrote, we say he wrote, some say not he, but maybe his brother. But it was his paper, it was he who was responsible for everything. And the language is telltale. That is why I'm saying the language is so recognizable, because anyone who has sense of language and who knows his Urdu would immediately recognize it at his hand. Paying compliment to her Muslim Islam, it's a long article, I will not read all of it, but I'll read some relevant passages. He says, उनकी ख़ुसूसियत को इस्लाम के मुखालिफिन के बरखिलाफ एक फतह नसीब जर्नैल का फ़र्ज पूरा करते रहे, हमें मजबूर करती है कि इस एहसास का खुल्म खुला एतराफ़ किया जाए ताकि वो मोहतम बिशान तहरीक जिसने हमारे दुश्मनों को असर तक पस्त और पामाल बनाए रखा आइंदा जारी रहे. He says this distinction of the late Hazrat Mir Sahib, that he rose as a victorious general for the army of Islam and did it with such success, fatah nasib, that victory always kissed his feet. This compels us to mention this and recognize this and appreciate these services, so that this great movement which was launched by Hazrat Muslim Islam and the Imam may continue to work in the same strain and the same style forever, and may defeat the enemies of Islam always like it defeated during the time of Mir Sahib. This is the general meaning of this passage. He says, Mirza Sahib का लिटरेचर जो मुस्लिमों और आर्यों के मुकाबले के ज़ुहूर में आया, वो आम की सनद हासिल कर चुका है और इस खुसूसियत में वो किसी तारुफ के मोहताज नहीं. The literature which he authored against the Christians and Aryans, Hindus, in relation to defense of Islam is so great and it gains so popularity that it can be referred to as the most popular literature among the masses of India, Muslim masses of India. इस लिटरेचर की कद्र अज़मत आज जबकि वो काम पूरा कर चुके हैं, हमें दिल से तस्लीम करनी पड़ती है. The greatness of his writings, now they have achieved the objective of defeating all the enemies of Islam, compels us again to admit, confess this fact. इसलिए कि वो वक्त हरगिज़ लौहे कलम से नस्से मुंसिया नहीं हो सकता जबकि इस्लाम मुखालिफीन की यूर्शों में गिर चुका था. He said, I'm writing it because it's impossible for anyone to forget that time when Islam was completely surrounded by its enemies. and was totally defenseless. None came or rose to defend it. और मुसलमान जो हाफिज हकीकी की तरफ से आलम असबाब व वसायत में हिफाजत का वास्ता होकर उसकी आवाज़ पर मामूल थे, अपने कसूरों की पैदाश में परिशेषक रहे थे और इस्लाम के लिए कुछ न करते थे कि न कर सकते. And the Muslims who were commissioned by God to defend Islam and to sacrifice everything for the sake of Islam, they were licking their wounds, lying flat on the ground. No strength left. This was the most pitiable state. Then what happened? Then he says, Mirza Sahib rose as a champion of the cause of Islam. इस मुदाफ़ियत ने ना सिर्फ ईसाइयत के इस इब्तदाई असर के परखचे उड़ा दिए जो सल्तनत के साया में होने की वजह से हकीकत में की जान था. Herein lies the answer, the very gist of the thing I want to bring to the notice of the Arab brothers. He says this defense by Hazrat Mirza Sahib, it says that it parkhache uda diye. It scattered the Christian onslaught to smithereens, to pieces. It was no longer an intact thing, it just scattered all around. Shattered their attack on Islam to pieces. And then that Christianity, now this is the point, he shattered to pieces the onslaught of Christianity which was prospering under the canopy of the great British Empire, which was fully supporting it. And hundreds of thousands of Muslims, because of Mirza Sahib's defense, were saved from being the target or the mouthful of Christianity. Hundreds of thousands of Muslims. बल्कि खुद ईसाइयत का ट्रेडिशन धुआं होकर उड़ने लगा. No, the very magic of Christianity turned into mist and smoke and disappeared, vanished into thin air. गरज मिर्जा साहिब की खिदमत आने वाली नस्लों को गिरांबारी और शान रखेगी. So in short, I must say that this service by Hazrat Mirza Sahib would keep all the future generations of Muslims bowed to him in gratitude. What gratitude? Certainly. These are the great leaders of Islam who, in India, who were so knowledgeable, who wrote volumes after volumes, commentary of the Holy Quran, this and that, rose to the world fame through Congress, and accepted leader of the Muslim India who were religious in their natures. And the literary classes of India, Urdu-speaking literary classes, poets and writers, all alike pay homage to his greatness. He says, we will continue to pay homage to the greatness of this defendant of Islam, who completely turned the tables against Christianity. And the future generations will remember him with gratitude. So again I say, what gratitude?
I remember Mawlana Abul Kalam Azad when I was very young. His name was always in the Egyptian papers.
Yes, he made a great impression on all the Muslim world, also America, England, everywhere, because he was the right-hand man of Hindu leadership, representing the Muslim leadership of India. So they were compelled to respect him and to give him a high status and honor. And because of his oratory, he spellbound people when he spoke. And he wrote magic. His pen was really knew how to pour magic into words.
في
Moses, India.
حزب المؤتمر.
No, but he was not a Moses of Pakistan. He was
Okay, yes, I'm talking that he was a friend.
against. No,
He was against them. Yes,
not a friend. That's
no.
what I'm saying.
Yes, yes, sir.
He was not a friend of Nehru. He, in fact, was an enemy of Nehru. And he believed in united India, so he was a disciple of Gandhi and Nehru, etc., and the right-hand man among the Muslims.
No.
But that falls apart. His status as a writer, as a poet, as a great leader of wisdom and of deep knowledge of Islam and a historian, that is independent of that. This is the key. Amritsar,
Yes, sir.
30th May 1908.
One حروف please.
The reference is
Yes. Emirates, وكيل أمريكا.
It's a newspaper. It's not a newspaper. Vakil.
No.
Amritsar.
No.
30th of May 1908.
This is after the demise of the Promised Messiah.
3 أيام بعد وفاة سيدنا الإمام المهدي والمسيح
And
الموعود.
the 60th died and 30th was published. Now some very interesting confessions by Christians themselves. What was happening with them, why their dreams were shattered, who did it, who are these people who have suddenly entered the arena. Little did they know that they were the British agents who were destroying Christianity. The Swiss newspaper, Appenzeller, Sonntagsblatt. I can't pronounce this.
This is German.
Appenzeller, Sonntagsblatt, dated May 13, 1961, wrote thus: Church circles are constantly drawing attention to the growing danger from Islam, which is threatening Christianity in Africa. Church leaders are now being very deeply concerned. The executive secretary of the Anglican Lambeth Conference, Bishop Stephen Byrne, said last week in a speech in London that the greatest danger for Christians in Africa came from that direction. He mentioned that Muslim missionaries knew how to adapt themselves to the tradition and customs of Africa much better than the Christian missionaries, and they preached an absolute monotheism to which the Africans showed themselves generally to be receptive. Now, who was doing it? It will come. They're talking, at that moment, all of them did not fully recognize what was happening with them, who it was. As I read on, then you know that the light of the day dawned upon them. There was nothing but Ahmadiyya community who was at the back of all this movement. Again, a Swiss newspaper speaks, but many observers give warning that Christianity's future in the West Africa is precarious. Something is happening in West Africa where the future of Christianity is now, hanging in the balance. Some danger is appearing. Who was doing it? The Dutch newspaper has better knowledge, is better informed than this man. This is the, this Flemish language. So I'll read the translation. And this man is a very well-known person. He is a great Orientalist of Holland. Very knowledgeable man. Dr. Kramer is a byword among the Orientalists who specialists in Islamic movement and Christianity, etc. He says, इस्लाम में आम तौर पर पाई जाने वाली मायूसी की रूह के बरखिलाफ जमात अहमदिया एक दिलचस्प और इम्तियाजी शान की मजहबी जमात है जो अपनी सारी तवज्जो इस्लाम की तबलीग पर मरकूज किए हुए है और सियासत में हिस्सा नहीं लेती. It says in the generally frustrated and defeated atmosphere in which the entire Muslim world is breathing, without hope, without any ambition left in them, there is one Jamaat which stands out as a great exception, and that is the small Jamaat Ahmadiyya. They have dedicated all their sources, all their energy, to just one task of preaching for Islam, and they don't care for politics or any other gains for them. They're completely and solely dedicated to the preaching of Islam. ब्रिटिश और दूसरी हुकूमतों की वफादारी का ऐलान करती है. उसके दिल में एक ही बात का जज्बा है कि वो देखे कि कौन से ऐसे मौके हैं जिनसे वो अपने पैगाम हक को पहुंचा सके. वो इस्लाम को एक सियासी मजहबी ढांचा नहीं समझती बल्कि एक आलमगीर सच्चाई करार देती है. It says their strategy is very rightly understood. I think he's a very great scholar. He says their strategy is that they teach their Jamaat, Ahmadis, all over the world. Wherever they are, they must respect the law. So also they teach that you should respect the British if you are living in their territory. Respect the law of other countries, दूसरी हुकूमतों. If you live under the canopy of other governments. So it's not just the British. It's a matter of principle. They say, according to Islam, it is the responsibility of the Muslims to respect the law of the land wherever a Muslim is living. It says, having done this, what else do they do? They do not want to treat Islam as a political edifice surrounding them, political building around them to save them, to protect them. They believe in Islam to be a universal truth. What a beautiful compliment. This is the secret of their success, and how right he is. Kramer, whatever is written against Islam, I don't agree with that, of course, because he himself was misguided. But how clearly he has understood the very character of Jamaat Ahmadiyya. He said their source of energy lies in the one fact, that they believe in Islam to be universal truth. Then after a few sentences says, the founder of this Jamaat, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, was a unique personality. He says, when I myself went to Qadian in 1931, Mr. Kramer, as a great Christian scholar, specialist in Islam, etc., toured the world of Muslim countries. So he said, when I myself visited Qadian, he's writing this in 1931, remember this. जो अपने बानी को एक नबी मानती है, उनकी तबलीग इस्लाम के लिए पुरजोश भरपूर कुर्बानी की रूह को देखकर बहुत मुतासिर हुआ. He said, when I met those who believed in Hazrat Mirza Sahib to be a subordinate prophet of God, I was so deeply impressed by the quality of their dedication, their faith, their unmistakable belief in the ultimate victory of Islam. So he went there, not in the lifetime of Islam, later on, but he's writing it in 1931. Because he doesn't mention meeting him, he says, I met his followers. And the reference is Professor Dr. Kramer of Leiden University Oriental Studies in Holland. You see, Leiden University has made a very big name in the studies of Islam and Orientalism. Dr. Kramer is no small person. Muslim World, April 1931, Hollandish paper of the magazine of the University Press. Now, another paper, which is a German paper, Herbert Gottschalk, he has written a book on Islam and Islamic movements, and the name is Weltbewegende Macht Islam. I apologize for the mispronunciation to the German Ahmadis particularly. Now what he writes is this translation. आज इस्लाम अकायद की इशाअत के लिए तलवार इस्तेमाल नहीं कर रहा. Today Islam has abandoned sword for the spread of its message. मुक़द्दस जंग का रुख सिर्फ बाकी इस्तेमाली ताकतों की तरफ है. This holy war is directed now entirely against the colonizers and the imperialists. By whom? By the Muslims in general. So he said two things together. Number one, as far as Islam is concerned, it is not using sword as weapons. As far as the Muslims' fight is concerned, they are fighting against colonialism and imperialism. But the peaceful, universal Jamaat Ahmadiyya, whose activities are spreading almost all over the world, this is the only Jamaat जो मसीहों को हल्का इस्लाम में खींच लाने के लिए पुरजोर तबलीग कर रही है. who is making all its efforts to convert Christians to Islam. So something new, some new thing has happened, some revolution has taken place. While the political minded Muslims apparently are fighting with the Islamari power. Defense of Islam lies only in the defense carried out by Jamaat Ahmadiyya with peaceful means. He said, before that we also once mentioned the difficulties the Muslims are facing. Now, the Christians are facing among the Muslims the new difficulties they are facing for preaching Christianity. Previously it was just a walkover for Christianity. But some difficulties have arisen, and we have mentioned it. He said the difficulty अब इस जमात की तबलीग में ईसाई का हदफ खुद नसीहत बन गई है. The defender has become the invader now, and this is because of this jamaat. Previously the Muslims were just defendants, and very poorly so. Now this jamaat has completely transformed the atmosphere. This has started attacking Christianity and taking converts from among the Christians. This community in Europe, in America, in Africa, in Asia, in Australia, in all the big cities have got their missions established, and it has created a rift, not a rift, क्या कहते हैं रखने को? No, the lines were building cracks. He said, this small jamaat, you may take it to be lightly, but I am telling you, it has created cracks in the edifice of Christianity and the Christian world. ये जमात मौसिफ प्रोपेगेंडा का निज़ाम रखती है. तकारीर की जाती हैं, अखबारात शाया किए जाते हैं, रेडियो को अपने ख्यालात के साथ इस्तेमाल किया जाता है. And he didn't know that television will also be used later on. He said, this Jamaat is a very organized Jamaat. It's small it may be, but it has created cracks in the building of Christianity. And it is using all the modern weapons of propagation, modern means of propagation against Christianity. Another Christian confession concerning Sierra Leone. There are so many. I had to take them out because it would be too long then. But repeatedly the Christian scholars, the wise men, the priesthood, and other observers have confessed that in Sierra Leone they have been defeated roundly, no hope left. So much so that one observer, by his name is written in Urdu, unfortunately, so I can't read the correct pronunciation. It reads like Weird Ga, whoever he is. He was a Christian observer who wrote concerning the state of affairs in Sierra Leone vis-a-vis the Christian-Muslim fight. And right from the beginning, he's so pessimistic now. He said, we did everything we could, but we have failed. It's high time we admit it. We have ceased to gain converts. And why is it happening? It is because the Ahmadiyya Jamaat has sent a new army of defenders into Islam. Ever since they have come, the tables have turned against us. He said, you want proof? In Gokulpur, because of Ahmadiyya, American mission has been closed, and they had to leave the country. He said, why waste your money and efforts? Accept defeat and leave the country. Go back. This is the admission, imagine. And another admission by a more well-known scholar, Christian scholar, writing in the World Digest, World Christian Digest, June 1961, page 3940. Here the writer says, on the day I left Sierra Leone, the first medical missionaries of Islam arrived, that is Ahmadi missionaries. The news occupied only a few lines in the local press, and as far as I know, no church leader lost any sleep about it. They sat in peace. They didn't notice what had happened. But to me, it was another sign of resurgence of Islam. And a token that the missionary impulse of Islam is assuming some of the habits of Christian missions, Islamic medical missions. That appears to be part of the deliberate policy of the Ahmadiyya Muslim movement, which is the spearhead of the Islamic infiltration in West Africa. He admits, he said, it's the Ahmadiyya Jamaat which is spearheading, which is leading a new movement of using the Christian methods against Christianity. Christians used to open medical missions and convert people to Christianity through the medical services rendered to the poor people. Now it is the Ahmadiyya Jamaat which has turned the table by adopting Christian methods against Christians. Then the same author goes on building the theme by telling us, the question I kept asking other people and myself who are linked around questions like these: what will happen to a land where a missionary of Christians, where the minority of Christians appear to have little missionary purpose, and where a strong attack by Islam is being set up? Will an independent Sierra Leone gradually move into an Islamic orbit as other countries of independent Africa are likely to do? This is the question which I am facing now. Having mentioned in his article very clearly that he is talking about Ahmadiyya movement in Islam, he says, now what I am asking myself is there any purpose left in this fight? What will happen? Shall we be able to achieve the dream of Christian Africa or no? Obviously the answer is no. Dr. Stanley E. Brush, in the Encyclopedia of Religion, speaking about Ahmadiyya movement, says, and it's a very authentic book, it's a book of great authority, it can be quoted, everybody knows, Encyclopedia of Religions. The organization and missionary achievement of the movement and the movement are remarkable. The later represents the most successful Islamic proselytizing effort of the 20th century and led to the establishment of branches in Europe, North America, the Caribbean, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Pacific Basin. He says that Ahmadiyya movement is a movement of remarkable missionary achievements. It represents Islamic preaching effort among others, the greatest event in the world of Islam in 20th century. What a tribute. See, this is not a small thing. Ahmadiyya Jamaat has created history, a stirring history of a nature where it stands out in the 20th century as a movement spearheading the counter-attack of Islam against other religions. Led to the establishment of branches in Europe, North America, Caribbean, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Pacific. The vigor of its missionary enterprise arose from the audacious universalism and self-confidence of Ghulam Ahmad, which imparted a global dimension to the spiritual vision and ability of his early followers. He said the entire credit goes to one man. He adhered tenaciously and boldly to his belief that Islam was universal. And as such, he imbibed that confidence among his followers, early followers, that they look at the world as, as the future land of conquest for Islam. This is Dr. Stanley E. Brush. And what has Dr. Lyndon Harris to say? Islam in Africa. This is a book which was published in 1954 by Lyndon P. Harris, MA, PhD. The Ahmadiyya now claim to number some 500,000 in more than a dozen countries. Now look at him. He was writing this in 1954. He is very ill-informed, of course. But if his word is to be taken seriously, then imagine the leap the Jamaat Ahmadiyya has made by now. Only for this purpose I am showing you, many a scholar who are known to be authentic scholars must have done their homework. They did very little before they started opining on others. This is one of those. But he noticed, of course, the Ahmadiyya movement. And the compliment he pays is, it is significant that of all the Indian Muslim sects, this is the only one to establish itself among tribal Muslims. What does it mean by tribal Muslims? I don't know. But he says this is the only sect which his language shows lack of knowledge, but I am quoting him only to make a comparison. If he is to be taken seriously, in 1954, Ahmadis numbered 500,000 all over the world in around a dozen states. This year, you saw and we all saw that 840,000 people from all over the world joined Ahmadiyya movement from 150 countries of the world. So if we write, then the speed must be alarming for the rest of the world. In the end, I will just read one short excerpt. There was a very, not very but a longish article published in the American magazine Life. Life is a magazine of global fame. It's not a small magazine. Every literary man knows about Life. Now, once it wrote an article on Islam and its movements, etc. In that article, he paid the most glowing tribute to Jamaat Ahmadiyya and singled it out as the force for Islam. And it says, of these, the most vocal is a modern sect called Ahmadiyya, with headquarters in Pakistan and mystery centers throughout Europe, Africa, America, and the Far East. Comparing our efforts in Africa against the Christian efforts, he has to admit, and the last bit I'm going to read is very important, that in some areas where Christians and Muslim missionaries are in competition. Now I remind you, there is no other Muslim missionary in competition except Ahmadiyya. He has made it very clear. But here he doesn't mention Ahmadiyya as such. In some areas where Christian and Muslim missionaries are in competition, Islam gains 10 converts for every one who accepts the rival faith. So the table had turned. Gone are the days that the Christians were dreaming of conquering Africa for Jesus Christ. Already, with the grace of Allah, Ahmadiyya have revolutionized the situation in Africa. And for every one convert to Christianity, they are gaining 10 for Islam. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah tomorrow.
Inshallah.
Yes.